Hey Heather,
Yeah.
have you seen that video that Morgan put out on Abby?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Hi, Morgan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I saw your last video and I am really excited. Abby looks great.
She's doing really good. She has. It's been funny. I mean, I put a lot of work in with her over the course of this summer, and just to kind of see where she's gone from to it has made a huge difference. So I'm excited. She's not there like all the way there yet, but she's getting like I can see that she will be there in a couple of months, and I'm excited about that.
Good morning. Who's hungry? Don't steal it. Good morning, Bobby. Good morning, Abby. Silly guys. Hey, guys. Good morning. Oops, sorry, Jude.
What are your thoughts on the shock collar?
I think if they're being used correctly, they're a great tool. There's a lot of tools in dog training. It's the morning party.
Yeah, no, it's a really good analogy. Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing too that's interesting is, and like I've seen lots of comments on my videos and kind of how people react to it of, well, you should be doing redirection or you should be doing kind of positive reinforcement, and when I look at all of Abby's what I'll call obedience commands, so come, sit, stay, leave it, like those sort of the basic building blocks of like making sure your dog doesn't go crazy, like those have always been trained through positive reinforcement. Kind of starting with treats. Now it's just praise and like a verbal cue, and like that's just how I do it. And I've never had to use like the e-collar for something like that.
Do you use those shock collars on your dogs, or have you in the past?
I have in the past, actually. I had a couple of German Shepherds that were trying to kill goats. And you guys aren't very helpful. And I used them to give an immediate correction to attacking animals. So the key to the e-collar or the shock collar is that they're used correctly. You can cause a huge amount of damage in your dog if you use them wrong. But when used correctly, they're actually a really good tool, and I highly recommend them for some people. I will be using them when we're doing boundary training with the corgis, and they like to chase deer and run off. So I need a way to correct them from a distance that I can't do with a long line. So that is your next step in that phase. Good morning, Miss Piggy. Good morning, Wilbur.
So you had a lot of people give you flack about your last video responding to Morgan, and quote, what gives you the right to speak your opinion on something like this?
So yeah, I got quite a bit of hate. Here's the thing. I began a Training Your Farm Dog series early in the spring based on a Facebook post that I read in one of my groups that I belong to, and they had talked about their kids had moved out onto some land and got chickens, and their German Shepherd went and killed all their chickens, so they were putting their dog to sleep. And I offered to help them for free, to go and help them with some training and that kind of thing, and basically there was no real response to it. And what gives me the right is this is my field. After getting out of the service as a military police officer, actually no, before that, I started training dogs when I was 10 years old. I just turned 50. So I have 40 years of dog training, and not only just training obedience and that kind of stuff, but actually fixing behavior problems. When I was in high school, I took dogs that were people couldn't train, and I started training them through high school and rehabilitating them. And you know, so I was a teenager at that point, and this has been a really big interest of mine, why animals do the things that they do and how we can correct some of these really basic bad behaviors that I was seeing over and over and over in dogs, and all different breeds of all different whatever. So what that tells me, or even told me at the time, but definitely tells me now, is it's not the dog, it's the person. So what are we doing as people to our dogs to encourage certain behaviors that later on down the road we don't want to see?
So why do you do this? Why do you care so much?
Well, one, I love dogs. I have always loved animals. As a little kid, I brought all the strays home. I was that kid. And it didn't matter what it was. If there was a snake in my yard, I brought it home, much to my mother's demise. But I've truly come, in the 40 years that I've been training dogs, I've really come to realize that there are very, very few. I can count them on one hand, how many dogs actually had a genetic predisposition or a genetic problem as to why they behaved the way that they behaved. You know, the rest of the time it's the human intervention and what we are possibly unknowingly teaching our dogs that is causing them to be a problem, and then unfortunately they die because of it. One, either at the hands of their owners, or because they've gotten themselves into a position where, you know, they get hurt to the point that they have to be put down or something like that. Not teaching your dog a really good stay or recall, they can get hit by a car. They can get, as far as on the farm, you know, cattle, big animals like that are so much bigger than the dogs could injure your dog if your dog's not where it needs to be, or responding to the command that you're giving them.
So why didn't you just email Morgan or contact him before you put that video out?
Well, so I have talked to Morgan, and we actually had a really great discussion. And there's nothing that I put in that video that I wouldn't say to Morgan directly. Like if I went to his property as a trainer, and those are all the things that I would have said to him that I actually put in the video. I think the thing that a lot of people didn't see because they didn't finish watching the video is this was not an attack Morgan video. This was information for other people, taking this situation and turning it into a learning experience for everybody else. Because, you know, Morgan's really good about saying he's not an expert. He's not an expert farmer. He's not an expert dog trainer. Let's move so these guys can get their food. He's not an expert, that he's not an expert dog trainer, he's not an expert farmer, and that he's learning these things as he goes. And so he's really good at saying that. But the one thing that I'm seeing is when we make YouTube videos and we do our YouTube thing, that people automatically assume that everything that we're doing is correct. And he's that big platform, and so they're wanting to say there's no fault of Morgan. And the thing is as people, we're imperfect and we're always going to do something wrong. I mean, if a builder watches me building my tiny house, they're going to lose their minds. Like exactly as a dog trainer and a behavior specialist, I'm going to watch him interact with his dog and I'm going to lose my mind. Like I'm going to see these micro things that are happening that are causing the issues that he was having with Abby. And now he's in the I've got to correct this phase. And I'm really, really excited to see that he's got a trainer, and that he's using the e-collar and he's using it correctly, because as was watching the last video, you know, she's not in fear. She's not afraid of him. She's not afraid of the animal. She's not afraid of any of those things, which indicates I can come to the conclusion that he's using it correctly. Because what you'll see in a dog where it's used incorrectly is they have a lot of fear. When you're taking the collar on and taking the collar off, they cower and they're afraid, or they try to bite you and get away and those kinds of things, which means you have it up way too high, and it's very, very painful. When you're doing just the stimulation of the collar, they're not afraid of it. It's example. A way that I think people can understand it is the seatbelt bell in your truck. You get in your vehicle, you start it up, you hear the bell, oh, I gotta put on my seatbelt, and you put on your seatbelt. And then eventually you get in the car and you're like, oh, I gotta put on my seatbelt before I start my car because the bell's gonna ding, and that's annoying. It's an annoyance thing. So then you put your seatbelt on. Well, eventually you just get in your car, you put your seatbelt on, you start your car, and there is no more thought of that, right? That is what the collar does. Is at first it's annoying, like, oh, what was that? Like, what do I got to do to get away from that? You know, and it's and then it turns into, okay, well, I can't chase that animal because I'm going to get that buzz, or, you know, it's really is a vibration. That's why he showed in the video, he put it on his neck and it didn't hurt him. So you saw him put it on, you saw him use it, he put it on himself. It just does a vibration. Shock collars, e-collars, shock collars, again, same as the pinch collar, got this really bad rap when you have people using them incorrectly and using them for the wrong reasons. So pretty sure it was the dog fighting community. It was using those to cause aggression and raise aggression and that kind of thing. But there are so many ways to train a dog, and there are so many tools that you can use that can really help you reach those goals. You know, if your dog's working perfectly on leash and is doing all the things that you want him to do close up, it's now time to start moving getting a distance from your dog. And if you can't correct your dog 20 feet from you, they're going to learn very, very quickly that the rules only apply when I'm on leash. And so this gives you that tool to give that correction, which is, it's not a shock, it's a buzz. You can take it up to an actual shock, but most dogs in general, unless they have an extremely high pain tolerance, just the vibration is that, ooh, there it is, that kind of thing. And that's all they need, is that there is some form of correction at a distance when mom or dad gives me the command that I'm supposed to be listening to, and then you redirect them into what it is that you're wanting to do. Like I said, I had 2 German Shepherds that were going after some milk goats. This is the very first time I ever got milk goats, and I picked up a shock collar from a friend who has a hunting dog. The e-collars are used in the hunting field quite a bit. It's the way that they train their dogs in general. And I had one with an extremely high pain tolerance, and I had one with an extremely low pain tolerance. So the one with the low pain tolerance had a very low setting, and the one with the high pain tolerance, she had a pretty high setting and had zero reaction to it whenever she was corrected. But they stopped chasing and trying to kill livestock. Is there a bunny over there? There wasn't there, crazy?
So those e-collars and shock collars, isn't the purpose of those just to like stop their brain from focusing on that one thing?
It does. It's kind of like that. And this is the same thing with your pinch collar. We have a rabbit behind us. It's very exciting. Justin is a super high prey drive dog, right? That's what you're seeing here. A bunny rabbit ran past us and he is just like, ah! We've got zero focus from him. So your pinch collar, your collars, your correction collars, and that's what an e-collar is. It's a correction collar. You give that little buzz, you give a little pop with your lead, and they go, oh, wait, what? Like they're zoned out into whatever it is that they're focused on, and then they turn around and look at you. At that point is when you need, to let them know that, hey, I'm the safe spot. I'm the safe zone. So if you're all up on that, you feel this little tingle, you need to come back to me to get away from whatever it is that thing is. So that's why it works really, really well. In this exact situation that he's using it in. If he had said, I just went out and bought one of these and I'm using it and it's working great, I would have panicked. But because he's got a trainer, obviously, by the fact that he knows how to use it, has given him the advice to use this, has probably taught him how to use it, shown him how to use it, instruction, is on call, all of those things, then what he's doing is the correct thing. I think, I look at the training as a life and death situation. If Abby's to run into cattle and try to, chase the cattle or whatever, or the ducks or whatever, but I'm just going to use the cattle as an example, she can get trampled. She could get really, really hurt. And this is a way to get her to listen when her brain is inactive into prey drive, like Justin does. He's not listening. He's like, there's ducks over there, there's rabbits over there. He's hyper focused on that. He is not focused on me at all. So that's going to redirect that attention back to me. And that, in that aspect, that saves dogs' lives. And that's really very, very important on a homestead.
At what age would you use an e-collar or shock collar on a dog?
So that really truly depends upon the pain tolerance of your dog, the training level of your dog, and what exactly it is that you're trying to break them of. Mind you, I've worked with a lot of police dogs. That was after I got out of the service. I bred German Shepherds and I trained police dogs. So we had some dogs with some really high levels of drive, both in protection, prey, and defense is what we talk about in protection type dogs. So we had dogs that were going to bite very easily, would be stimulated into biting very easily. So, there were some aspects that I knew my shepherd was going to kill a goat if she got to it. And I needed that to be a hardcore no, never. You never do this ever. And so definitely was a younger dog in that aspect. I think she was about 6 months old. But in general, you're proofing your dog to something that you've kind of already trained them to do. You've taught them that, no, I don't want you, let me get around this post. I don't want you, attacking this animal, or, I told you to lie down and you're not lying down. You've been taught the thing and now I'm giving you the correction from a distance kind of thing. So in general, I would not put a shock collar on a dog for the basic public until about this age that Abby's at. So the 8 to 10, 10 months of age situation. The thing is this is something that you can nip in the bud really quick and really early, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. And the dog moves past that. So the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. In this particular situation, you don't want we don't want Abby thinking that she can kill livestock, or play with livestock. That's not her job. So getting that hard correction done early and getting that through her head early, you've really changed the aspect of what her brain thinks whenever she's around the animal. So I would say that this is a very good age to start. She could definitely handle it. I've had some dogs that could be started earlier in it. And then I've had some dogs that are super soft and I would never put one on them. So again, it truly just depends upon the dog. That's why border collies are such good herding dogs, because they're real soft. A verbal is all that they need. So you've got to know your dog. You've got to really be confident in what it is that you're trying to break. Is this protecting the life of another animal? Is this actually protecting your dog in itself? So You know, it's kind of like your child runs, your 5-year-old runs into the street. What are you going to do? You're going to grab them by the arm and you're going to, you know, no, don't run into the street. It's going to be this real quick thing because you're scared, because they can get run over and die. It's the same thing with the dog. So, you know, this is where having a trainer, having a professional come in and give you the advice of your particular situation and your animal, if, you know, if this is not your genre, is extremely important. So I applaud him for getting a trainer. I applaud him for continuing, you know, to work with her and continuing to move past this issue, because it's just a small issue that can be fixed pretty easily, and this should do it. This should really change her process of chasing animals, because I think the one that she killed was actually an accident. Let me turn the water off. So yeah, I definitely think that this is appropriate, an appropriate stage training for her and him. It's also really important, you know, would Abby have done this in the event that she was with someone who was actually a trainer? You know, this behavior, probably not, because it would have been nipped in the bud very young, you know. But to be fair to, in general, most owners, they're not looking at the micro behaviors that dogs are throwing out, where trainers are. And that is the reason why I would say it's so important, if you're not a trainer, to get a trainer, because they're going to see these micro behaviors that are unnoticed by other people, and then they're going to guide you into where to go from there. So if you find yourself in this situation, get a trainer, talk to a trainer. I've had some people ask for my opinion on some things, on some training aspects with their personal dog, and I'm going to be setting up a what's it called? I forgot. So I'm going to be setting up a thing in bookme.com where we can get together and we can talk about your specific issues and your specific things. And I absolutely love talking about dog behaviors and the training aspects and those kinds of things. It is a passion of mine. It brings me a lot of joy. 40 years I've been doing this and I still just absolutely love it. So I'll be putting a link in the description below. Eventually we'll be setting this up here in a little bit, in the next couple of weeks most likely. You know, but until then, thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate you guys supporting the channel. If you haven't, please subscribe, like, comment. I love to read your comments. As you can see throughout this video, we've been addressing some comments that were put in the last video where I did a reaction video of Morgan and Abby. And you know, hey, just get out there and train your dog. You've been caught. You will not be a wild bunny. No, no, no. No, no, no. Okay, look at this. Seriously.
Oh, how cute is that?
Hi, Morgan. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. I saw your last video and I am really excited. Abby looks great.
She's doing really good. She has, it's been funny. I mean, I've put a lot of work in with her over the course of the summer, and just to kind of see where she's gone from to, it has made a huge difference. So I'm excited. You know, she's not there, like all the way there yet, but she's getting, like, I can see that she will be there in a couple of months, and I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. They go through this really crazy puppy stage. And you really see it between this 8 and like 11-month-old stage. What is she at right now?
She is 11 months right now.
Okay, so she's right around that that stage. Yeah, there's a few stages that they have in their mental growth, and it's like the 16 to between the 8 and 16 week. There's a big fear imprinting there, and then also between the it's between the 8 right around the 8 and 10 month age, there's also another real big fear imprinting there. So obviously you're using this collar correctly, because you can see in the video, and I talked about this earlier whenever I was recording, that she's like showing no fear, and she's like, when you reach down and put the collar on her, she's not freaking out and all those kinds of things. And so that was really cool to see.
Yeah, no, she like, I mean, look, I have actually used like the electrical function part of the collar like a handful of times. I'm talking like less than 5 at this point. And it
Yeah.
was, the primary thing I was using was just like getting her to see, okay, vibrate is like get your attention one, and then that. And it's worked out so well because I mean I haven't used it in months like with the electric now because it's like that easy. And honestly, yeah, what I've seen from her is she will catch herself sometimes. So like
Yep.
like she has this instinct, and her instinct is to say, "Ooh, flopping feathers, let me go play with it, like go after it." And so
Yeah.
she will do that. But then it's like I'm seeing, so at first it was me stopping her with the vibrate. Now I'm not even doing it as much, and she's just stopping herself like mid, like kind of chase and stride.
Yes.
Which that's when I say like I feel like I can see her getting there. I can see it starting to click for her of, oh no, I'm not supposed to do that, and she backs off. She'll like kind of chill out and go about her way.
So I like to explain this to people like your seatbelt buzzer in your car. So you know how you get in your car and you turn on your car and then the dinging starts happening and you're like, ugh, and you put your seatbelt on. And then eventually you get in your car, you immediately put your seatbelt on, then you start your car and you're still just like, the bell. But eventually you get in the car, you put your seatbelt on, you start your car, you don't even think about it, right? It becomes
it's a really good
behavior.
analogy. Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's the exact same thing that happens with them is that they've learned it, they understand it, and they no longer there's not even that connection of the correction because you've altered the behavior. Right. So that's really cool that you're seeing that. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that's interesting is, in like I've seen lots of comments on my videos and kind of how people react to it of, well, you should be doing redirection or you should be doing kind of positive reinforcement. And when I look at all of Abby's what I'll call obedience commands, so come, sit, stay, leave it, like those sort of the basic building blocks of like making sure your dog doesn't go crazy, like those have always been trained through positive reinforcement. Kind of starting with treats, now it's just praise and a verbal cue, and like that's just how I do it. And I've never had to use like the e-collar for something like that. The challenge that I faced, and this is when, as I was kind of working with my trainer and like figuring out a way to deal with this, is the positive reinforcement that comes with chasing a chicken is very hard for me to redirect. I can't say, oh, sit or leave it when she's getting that endorphin rush of like, ooh, playtime. Like it's like I can't compete with that. And so as much as I'd love to be doing redirection, as much as I'd love to have that being the thing that I go to for any sort of behavioral issue, in that specific context, it didn't work, which is why I ultimately did start using the e-collar. And that has been the thing that has like kind of been the gentle reminder to say, yes, you can't do that. And that stops me. So that's made the difference.
Well, and that's what happens where you have a specific time frame where you can actually make this a very easy correction, which is what you're seeing, where you're like, you did a couple of good ones and now you don't have to do that at all. And if she doesn't get that correction, and it has to be like this is an absolute no, as if she's running in the street and the UPS man's going to run her over, or you know what I mean? Like it has to be that quick and hard, baby's going to touch the stove, you're going to grab their arm and yell. I mean, that's kind of what happens. And you cannot do that from a distance in a positive manner. You really cannot. And I think the e-collars and the pinch collars and the correction collars, because that's what they are, got a really bad rap because people use them incorrectly. But if you have a trainer and you're using them correctly, they're like an amazing tool that really do. The dog learns very quickly with the least amount of correction. And I think that's what we're looking for as owners of dogs, as trainers, and as a general public should be looking for that. If you don't correct your kids go to jail and then the police do it.
Right. Well, no, it's
you know what
exactly
I mean?
That. And that's where I think you're exactly right, because I could see how, number one, people who are just like, look, I just bought it off Amazon. It's like $150. I'm off to the races. Let's go get this dog and whip them into shape. Let's go. And if like that's the mindset somebody's taking, that can be horrible.
It is horrible.
And so I can really see how it gets misused. But if like I'm got like a professional who's showing me how to use it, we kind of do a session where we're doing it. I'm reading up on this stuff. I'm doing my research. I've already tried every other possible method for correcting her behavior, and I'm going this way. it's like I feel like no, this is the right path to go on, and I know not everybody sees it that way, and like a lot of the feedback
Well,
since I put out my video, like I've seen that, but at the same time, what I'm really seeing is like it's making a difference, a positive difference with her, and so yeah, so be it.
you know, and that's the hard thing is, well, the one thing that you've done correct, 100% correct here, is you got a trainer to show you how to do it. You obviously care about Abby, and you don't, so I'm a behavior specialist. I've been training dogs for 40 years, and I've done a lot of dogs that were basically going to be put to sleep, and so they came to stay with me to see if I could fix them. So that's usually whenever I get them. When people have done things like this and they put the collars on and they've done it wrong, or they've done nothing, and then the dogs get so bad to the point that they're just going to be put down. So using it the way that you're using it, you can tell by looking at Abby that she is not stressed about this. She's still happy-go-lucky. She's not flinching when you go to pet her. She's still coming when called. She hung out at the gate waiting for you, you know. If she was afraid of you, she wouldn't do those things, right? So obviously, even though I'm not standing there watching you do it, I can tell that you're doing it correctly. And you know, I mean, that is the real thing. It's you're going to see there's micro behaviors that dogs do that behavior specialists see. You know, which is why when in my last video I kind of commented, I quit watching when you got Abby, because I was like, oh gosh, he's doing that. Oh no, the dog's going to do this. The dog's going to do that. Because I could see these things that were happening, and I went, I just need to step back. It's none of my business, right? I probably should have messaged you. I probably should have told you that.
I mean, look, it's inevitable, and I mean, yeah, that's always the challenge of like, where's the line?
Exactly. So, you know, but at that time, I was like, I know too much. This is why I don't go to dog parks. This is why I don't, you know, do big dog things, parades and stuff, because I know too much. I watch other people's dogs, just as, you know, I'm building, and I'm sure a contractor watches me build and loses his mind, right? Like, why is she doing it that way, you know? So
no, that's such a great analogy, because I mean, and I think probably 3/4 of my YouTube channel consists of this, where look, we're all out there in this world trying to build new skills, trying to create, trying to learn, trying to grow. And if you're documenting it while you're doing it, which is, I think, what I've always been very much about with my YouTube channel, people are going to see you screwing up. And it, particularly for the experts, it's going to be maddening. But I think it's actually important to put it out there, because, you know, it helps encourage others to take that step. And if everybody starts taking steps in those directions, I do think I genuinely believe it kind of makes for a better world. But that means you're going to see a lot of people screwing up, and it pisses off. And it's... Yeah, I know that's the downside to it, but I think the overall impact is a net positive.
I agree. Yeah, I had to use a grease gun the other day for my sawmill, and it was hysterical because I had never used one. And I videoed it and put it out there. And I've gotten a lot of, I was laughing at you, and I'm like, that's okay. You were laughing with me.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. It's like we all have these steps. I just learned how to change my tractor's tire for the first time the other day. It's like, it's part of growing here.
Exactly. And I think with livestock and with animals, people get so emotional because it's a living being. And so that's where that all kind of comes in play. But I've used e-collars exactly for the same exact reason why you're using it. I had German Shepherds, and I brought goat milks to my property, and my Shepherds were police-type dogs in my breeding and training program. And they were like, yes, this is prey. This is great, Mom. Thanks. And so that was the first time I'd ever used an e-collar, was with that particular situation. And it worked. It worked very quickly. The dogs, no animal had to get hurt in the entire process. And I think as owners and as homesteaders, we have to stop and say, okay, we have to look at both animals. We have to look at the birds. We have to look at the dog, and we have to make some decisions here. And I'm really excited that your trainer steered you in this direction, because it's obviously working. And, Abby looks really great. Well, and she'll mellow out with her age. So I worked with Great Pyrenees I rescue actually in Texas, and there was a lot of dogs that came through my farm because I had sheep. And so the males would come in and they were really calm and they were really laid back and they just kind of laid around and did nothing. And the females patrolled. Like they were just going nonstop. And then when there was an issue, they would bark, the male would get up because their job was to defend and her job was to alert. And so I've seen that a lot in the guardian livestock dogs is that's how they work. So your females have way more energy than your males is what I've seen.
Oh, and that's definitely even now the dynamic between Toby and Abby, where you know, most of the time Toby just looks like the laziest dog in the world. But like, you know, just even today I was outside working and I saw, you know, it started to have a hawk kind of like start to linger a little bit more towards the farm, and you know, Toby snaps too, and he's just, I always call it kind of Cujo mode, where he goes from being just kind of this like, you know, fluffy, lovable, like laid back guy to like, and it's awesome to see. But with Abby, she's much more run, explore, go over here, over there, and so yeah, I can see that ultimately becomes their long-term dynamic.
Well, I got about 8 minutes left before the library kicks me out.
We're looking for. Is there anything else I can like?
I mean, Well, this is pretty perfect because I had a lot of people get very upset because they really felt like I was attacking you. And I hope that you don't feel like I was attacking you in the last video. I'm sure the title threw people.
No, I know we talked about this a couple months ago, right? Or a month ago. Like, look, everybody's going to have their perspective. You might not agree with somebody. It's like attacking. I mean, believe me, I've already received about 6 comments and 6 emails, much more attacking over the span of the last 2 hours than I feel like any of that stuff that you've said actually ever was. Like, it's, my whole...
Oh,
I was just going to say, when you put yourself out there, right, and you create content, you have to be ready for criticism.
You have to.
You cannot, like, you know, have anybody who casts any sort of shade on anything you've done, and oftentimes it might even be wrong, to be like, you know, oh, well, they can't criticize me. No, you put yourself out there. That's part of the bargain.
Well, and the real part of that video was not to criticize. There were some things that I was like, you're killing me here, man. But was to teach other people. I'm a trainer. That's what I do. I teach people with animals. I'm very, very good with animals. That's my thing. I'm not good at a whole lot of other things. That happens to be what I'm very good at. And, you know, taking this situation and hopefully helping somebody else, you know, who's dealing with it in the homesteading community. And I had started my training stuff based on somebody who took a dog out into the country and she killed all their chickens and they were putting the dog down and they literally refused any help whatsoever. So I had started doing these training videos to hopefully get some stuff out there for people. So you know, I don't want to be known as the YouTuber that goes and attacks everybody else's dog training thing, because some other people have sent some videos in of, have you seen this person? Have you seen that person? And, you know, I'm just wanting dogs to not be put down because of something that they're doing that's not getting corrected at an early stage. And I'm wanting to show that how that could be worked through. You know, there's probably a lot of things with Abby that I would have not had a problem with that you're having a problem with because I'm a trainer, right? And I can watch micro behaviors and I can correct them as a micro behavior. You're not going to see it as an average person who's not a dog trainer until it's an actual problem, right? So, you know, how can somebody be angry at you for something that you don't know? You know, if you knew how to do it, she wouldn't have done what she did, right?
Right. Yeah, no,
so you wouldn't be having the problems.
Yeah, for sure. That very much makes sense.
I applaud you for getting the trainer, and I was just really excited when you and I talked before and you had said that you were doing it. I was like, yes, this is awesome. So, you know, we are influencers and we do influence people, and the fact that you've now been able to put that out there and say, hey, I got a trainer and I'm doing these things, and, you know, it helps other people say, well, maybe I should go get a trainer. I'm having some problems. And